Alright, welcome to the first video in the Renderman series for Maya. In this first video, we're going to go talk about how to get Renderman set up on your machine to make sure all of the preferences are checked and loaded, and then we'll take a quick look at the shelf before diving into some things in the next video. First off, let's go up to Windows up here. And it should be preloaded by default, but if it's not, this is where we can always check it. Go to Windows, Settings and Preferences, Plugin Manager. And when this video goes live, we will be using 22.5, I believe. So we're going to scroll all the way down until we see Applications, Pixar, Renderman for Maya 22.5. Make sure both of these are checked. And give it a second after you check auto load and load. Once it's done, it should appear on the shelf, if not there automatically. So when you're done with that, click close. Let's take a look at the shelf real quick. We have several options here that we will cover in later videos, but let's just look at them briefly. We have our render current frame button on the far left, our interactive preview render. We have our image tool, our local queue, which is all the things that we could be rendering. We have the next two are our lights. Notice again we have the little drop down underneath the symbols, which means that we have many different light options for the first and 3 for the second. We have our mesh light. We have our filter lights as the last one in that section. And then we have our texture selections here, our volume selections, and then we have our holdouts. We don't mess too much with this section over here, except for getting into possibly the texture manager and definitely the preset browser, which again we'll touch on a little bit later. So that's kind of the ones that we will deal with. We will deal with pretty much all of these here, maybe up to the holdouts, and then the texture, or the preset browser, excuse me, a lot. Let's go up to the Renderman option up here in the menu set. If we click on that and we go to Preferences, we can see our preferences inside the generic Maya setting. You're going to see your render threads here. If you want to be able to work on anything at all while it's rendering a frame or an animation, you're going to want to leave this as a negative number so that it's using every single core of the computer but 2 or -1. If you put 0, it's going to use all of them. You need to leave render to Pixar IT alone. Spooling needs to be to local queue. And the spool style needs to be set to rib and not Maya batch. We've had a lot of errors with Maya batch, and I believe that it's just standard to change this to rib for our purposes. Frames per server, we can leave at 5 for right now unless you really want to do multiple frames at a time, in which case you can take that number higher. That should be everything that we need to do in this window. Let me triple check. For now it is. Okay. In the rendering section, let's make sure we change our preferred renderer to Renderman. And then preferred render system can still be render setup. Okay? All right, that should be getting everything set up. In the next video, we'll start creating some geometry and looking at Pixar surface, the material, and we will start adding lights in. We'll get going.